You are listening to the Across the Campus podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Across the Campus, your Mid-American and Big Ten Conference podcast. I'm your host, Alex the Captain. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, AJ the Guru.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
AJ, welcome back. This has been a really long stretch for us to not record.
It has.
This has been the longest stretch we've had.
It is, but there just hasn't really been much going on the past, week or so.
Yeah, there really hasn't. And then last night, everything happened. All the upsets.
Last night and today, there's a ton.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just dive right in. I know that you kind of wanted to talk some of the upsets from last night, talk some Big Ten. We can talk some Big Ten today.
Yeah.
The Mid-American Conference race is heating up for sure, but we got loads to talk about, so let's just dive right in.
Yeah, we can dive into yesterday. The Big Ten Conference, Iowa, they took down Penn State 77-68. That was a 18 over a 16 ranking there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Maryland Sparty game was a really good one. Sparty did come out on top, 78-66. Sparty's ranked 24th, Maryland 9. Maryland's lost a few here in the past week. Lost one to Buckeyes, and then here to Sparty. So it's really going to be interesting. I mean, they're still 23-6, but still it's going to be interesting when it comes to the Big Ten tournament. Then we move into today. Wisconsin, they're playing Minnesota right now. Minnesota is down. Wisconsin is up 54-53. With about 6.5 minutes to go in that ball game. The Buckeyes, they swept Michigan here today.
Let's not talk about that.
Right, 77-63. And that game was really back and forth until the last 6 minutes of the game. When the Buckeyes went on like a 23-9 run or something like that.
Yeah, they had a bunch of huge three-pointers late in that second half that really lifted them.
They I was flipping back and forth between that and a few other games. And obviously, I was paying a little more attention to it. But yeah, let's see here. Washington here. Dwayne Washington for the Buckeyes. He led with 20 points. Luther Muhammad, 10. C.J. Walker, 15. Caleb Wesson, 14. And Andre Wesson, 14. Yeah. Those starters put up some serious numbers.
Yeah, it just seemed like everybody was hitting a three for Ohio State today. Like, they just could not miss from on the three-point line. And it just... I mean, obviously you mentioned the 3-9 run or whatever to close off the game. That I think Ohio State's getting in stride right now. They're kind of finding their rhythm
at the right time too.
Yeah, they're going to be dangerous for the Big Ten tournament and then ultimately the NCAA tournament, assuming that Ohio State and Michigan both get bids, which I think we can safely assume that, depending on how far they go in the Big Ten tournament.
Absolutely. Speaking of 3-point balls here, the Buckeyes were 11 of 21. And Michigan for 52%, and Michigan was 7 of 26.
Yeah.
26, almost 27%. Free throws, the Buckeyes, this was huge too. They were 12 of 13.
Wow.
92% huge. 32 rebounds for the Buckeyes, 30 for the Wolverines. And defensively, though, 4 steals for the Wolverines, 4 for the Buckeyes, 3 blocks apiece. Total turnovers were still relatively low, 12 for the Wolverines, 9 for the Buckeyes. And fouls 18 for the Wolverines and 12 for the Buckeyes. And 17 for the Buckeyes. No, 12. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Ohio State, I watched a little bit at the end of that game. Ohio State really, they just played really clean basketball too. I think they had 4 fouls in the second half.
Something like that, yeah. And it was under 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, they looked really good.
They played really clean.
Absolutely. There was one stat here I wanted to see. Northwestern, they ended up winning today, getting a 7-21. They lost like 18 in a row or 8 in a row or something like that. That's some absurd number.
Yeah, they've been really bad.
Yeah, they're 7-21. Nebraska 7-22 on the year. But we'll go to the team stats here. This one will blow your mind. Nebraska was 8 of 30 from free throw land.
8 of 30.
8 of 30 at 26.7%. Northwestern was 15 of 20 for 75%. From the field, though, Nebraska was shot 42% and Northwestern 46%. So really, they were pretty well suited up here. 20 turnovers for Northwestern and 21 for Nebraska. 21 fouls for Northwestern, 17 for Nebraska. So we're really bottom barrel of the Big Ten, but yet with the Big Ten as open as it is right now, like I was talking to my dad earlier through the Ohio State game. It doesn't matter what position you are in the Big Ten Conference right now. The Big Ten tournament's still wide open.
Oh, it really is. I mean, you look at. I think you sent me a picture earlier of the top 10 Big Ten standings.
I did.
Right now, and Ohio State and Michigan, if the tournament started today, are the 7 and 8 seeds. Yeah. Michigan State is sitting at the number 2 seed. Maryland's still at the number 1 seed, but all of that can change in the next week.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think about.
Absolutely. Here's the team with the Big Ten standings. You got Maryland still sitting there at first at 13-5. Sparty second, 12-6. Illinois 12-6. Wisconsin 11-6. Penn State 11-7. They're tied with Iowa at 11-7. The Buckeyes are 10-8. Michigan here 9-9. Rutgers 9-9. IU 8-10. And that's a game I also wanted to talk about too. IU today dropping by 1 point to Illinois at Illinois.
What a heartbreaker.
It was, and I'm very curious to see, because I live here in Indiana. I have a lot of friends who are alumni and boosters to IU, and they're not happy. And I was down in Bloomington about a month or so ago for the Ohio State IU game, and they aren't happy at all. And, Archie Miller was brought there to change the program because obviously, why am I drawing his name? Who was there? He's at Georgia now. Harbaugh's in-law. I don't know why I'm I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. But either way, he was a great recruiter, not so much of a great coach. And so, Archie Miller was brought in from Dayton to really bring IU basketball back to prominence, and yet he really hasn't done that yet.
Tom Crean,
that's it. I don't know why I just blanked that. But yeah, I mean, he did good things at IU, but his recruiting was great when you look at the people he brought there. But his end results were not always the best. They obviously beat Kentucky that one year. They were undefeated. The last second shot by Christian Wofford. Then they did
classic.
They were supposed to win. They had like Victor Oladipo and Zeller. They were supposed to make a deep run into the tournament. They only made like the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, one of the two. So really, that Archie Miller was doing his things at Dayton, which that's a team we'll talk about here later on. Dayton, they haven't lost a step in a long time. It seems like they're playing great basketball. And so,
they're just lights out over everybody.
They really are. And like going back to that, they haven't lost a stride. And Archie Miller has come to IU. And IU is not a hard program to sell to recruits because it is IU. But when it comes down to it, they're just not getting it done. They're losing these close games. And, Archie Miller is getting into arguments on the sidelines with assistant coaches. I don't know if you saw that video. Had to have been like Thursday night, I think it was, against Purdue. He threw a huge hissy fit on the sidelines with one of his assistant coaches. They had a disagreement on a scheme or a play call, and they both were very vocal towards each other on the bench. And then today he kind of got into it a little bit with the player. So I think he's kind of starting to feel the pressure now too, because the Big Ten is the best basketball conference this year,
top to bottom. Absolutely. I mean, you've got your other conferences with like Kansas, who are the clear, a top 5 team consistently in the country.
Yeah.
But I think top to bottom, and we talked about this before. You've got the Big Ten is always beating each other up every single week. Anybody could be upset. Maryland losing to Michigan State last night. Just any of these guys are losing games that they shouldn't, and then winning games that they shouldn't.
Right.
It's a constant bloodbath.
It really is, and this is the only conference I think in the country that's as wide open. With the top 10 teams in it, they could all win it, and they could all win the Big Ten tournament because they're all
100%. I legitimately, and people listening to this can say you're going to take a hard L on this one, but I wouldn't even bet Minnesota would be out of winning the conference tournament.
I don't know.
Northwestern and Nebraska, yeah, probably.
Right.
But Minnesota, I mean, they're still only 7-10. They could easily jump to as high as a 9 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe not, probably higher than that, honestly. Yeah, they could jump to as high as an 8 or a 7 seed, depending on how things play out the next week or so.
Yeah, it's just so wide open. In the talent here, I mean, you're looking at, like Illinois, they're 20-9. They're not ranked. IU, they're 18-11. Let me pull these standings up here. Give you an update here. Minnesota is on top of Wisconsin now, 60-59. with 3.5 to go. So we'll keep a close eye on that one. But, standings-wise, we get down to the bottom here. After Rutgers, it's Purdue at 8-10, IU 8-10, Minnesota 7-10, and Northwestern and Nebraska tied there at the last two at 2-16 in the conference. They're 0. And here's kind of interesting too here. Against AP poll teams, Ohio State's 5-3, Maryland is 3-2, Sparty is 5-4, Wisconsin's 5-3. Illinois 2-5, Penn State 4-2, Iowa 7-4. That's a team I think is going to be a real team to watch and a real threat for the Big Ten is Iowa this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you look at them and how they've been playing basketball. Yeah, sure, they're on a 1-game win streak right now, but they've been playing stupid well at home. That's not going to matter for Big Ten tournament play, obviously, but they are just playing phenomenal, and if they can win these last two, they could very easily have a 2 seed.
Absolutely,
in the Big Ten tournament.
That's one thing you mentioned. Playing at home. That's been a record that has nobody's winning on the road this year. Maryland, they are at home. They're 15-1. Sparty is 11-3. Wisconsin's 13-1. Illinois is 14-3. Penn State's 14-2. Iowa 14-1. Ohio State 15-2, Michigan 10-5, Rutgers at home at 17-1, and they're 9-9 in the conference.
Yeah, they're 9-9 in the conference, but it's those away games that's been killing them.
Absolutely.
They're 1-8 on the road.
Absolutely,
you can't win a conference doing that.
No, and then Purdue's 11-4 at home, IU's 14-3, Minnesota's 10-5, Northwestern's 4-11, and then Nebraska's 5-11.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska's, yikes, they're 0-10 on the road.
0-10 on the road. They are on a 14-game losing streak as well.
That's tough.
That's disgusting.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's really rough. Obviously, any of these teams, save Northwestern and Nebraska, I think could win this tournament. If I said the tournament was starting tomorrow, I think right now, you mentioned Iowa. I agree with that pick. I could see Iowa and Michigan State playing in the conference championship.
Sure.
That would be my pick if it was starting tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm really, because we've got, just a few games left here on the year.
2 or 3,
Two or three left, yeah. So I'm really excited to see kind of when the rankings come out. Because I believe I'll be with you in Toledo no, that's the week after, I think, was in the bracket. No, they come out that Sunday.
Yeah, they come
out
that
Sunday. Yeah, that's right. So it'll be really interesting to see here. For example, the Buckeyes have 2 more games left on Thursday. They're home for Illinois, and then they'll finish up the year at Sparty.
Yep.
Nothing easy there at all.
Nothing easy. Well, and that, you talk about the strength of schedule and everybody, the Big Ten is beating each other up all the time, and I look at it, these guys have been tearing down some of these powerhouses in these other programs all season long.
Yeah.
Like, sure, the Big Ten beats each other up, but they go out and they just absolutely rock everybody else in non-conference play. I mean, you look at Ohio State and Michigan before conference play started. They were absolutely crushing top-ranked opponents.
Villanova, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what's great, too, is because, in the Big Ten, if you get hot, obviously you're going to have a little decline in the middle of the season. That's just a trend that happens every year. But once you get hot, like right now, like the Buckeyes are later on in the year, with a couple games left in the tournament coming up here, prime time here to get warm. Like the Buckeyes obviously are hitting 3-pointers today. Time to get a little warm now because you can still make up real estate because everything's still wide open.
Everything's still wide open, and you don't need to. If you're Ohio State or a Michigan, even, you don't need to win a conference championship or the conference tournament to get a Big Ten or to get an NCAA bid.
No.
You just need to win 1 or 2 games.
Exactly.
You're the strength of the Big Ten shows, and if you pull off a win or 2 in conference tournament play, and you maybe lose to a finalist, you're into the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. So that's what's good about the Big Ten. There's no other conference in the country I think it's like it.
No, absolutely not. The Big Ten is just top to bottom the toughest conference in college basketball right now.
Let's go to our other favorite conference, the MAC.
Our other favorite conference. Now, I'm happy to talk about one of the results from yesterday.
Me too. Me from Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. No, you guys had so I guess we can talk women's first.
Yeah.
Ball State pulled off the unthinkable. The only team to beat Central Michigan in conference play this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge win and a huge momentum lift for Ball State, who's been playing pretty well.
Yeah.
But I think that just kind of put them over the hump a little bit for not only the conference, but just their outlook on the rest of the season and potentially making a push in 2 weeks in Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that first round bye is huge.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals will get. Yeah, they beat Central Michigan Chippewas 67-62, and that's huge. And then I'm looking down the scoreboard here. Kent State and BG in 2 overtimes, 96-86.
Couldn't believe that.
Barn burner that was. And
that was nuts.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, women only played on Sunday. Kind of looking at the standings here for the MAC. Hold them up here if you want to come up. There we go. So yeah, Central Michigan's still at the top of the conference, 15-1. And that only loss was to us. Ball State Cardinals are 12-4. Western Michigan 9-7. Eastern 9-7. Toledo 6-10. And Northern Illinois 5-11. This is the MAC West. So, but yeah. It's really excited about the Cardinals' opportunity here. When I was a student down there, not a whole lot of activity was going on in the basketball program. Nothing too exciting, nothing to really look forward to. But I've seen the Rockets did beat the Cardinals on Saturday, 69-62. That was a really close game. I mean, all the way through, it really was.
Yeah, over on the men's side, that was a wild game.
It really was. There were Eastern, they beat Central 67-63. Akron, they beat Buffalo 86-73. BG dropped one. I think I kind of got hammered there by Miami, 73-55. And then Western did beat Northern Illinois. And as we look at the men's standings here, let's pull those up here. The MAC West, Northern Illinois
it's still a dogfight.
Yeah, Northern Illinois still leads it at 10-6. The Ball State Cardinals are a game behind at 9-7. Toledo is 7-9. Eastern and Central are both 6-10, and Western brings up the rear at 5-11. And if you look too that was the West. If we look on the East over here, if I can pull those guys up here.
The East is absolutely chaotic, especially at the top.
Those top three, Akron, BG, Buffalo. Really, it's between Akron and BG right now. They're both sitting there at 12-4. Buffalo in third place at 9-7, 3 games back. Mm-hmm. Kent State at 500 at 8-8. They're 4 games back. Ohio University 7-9, 5 games back. And Miami of Ohio, so they're 5-11, 7 games back. But Miami of Ohio has won 2 in a row.
They have. Miami's been looking really good as of late, as of late, the last week or so. But, I mean, that win over Bowling Green, Akron was cheering them on, man. Mm-hmm. Akron's sitting in their locker room like, all right, come on, Redhawks, let's do this. And for Miami to pull that upset, that was huge. And that gave Akron some life again in conference play.
Absolutely. I think this is something Akron needed to, not just as a school in general, because football, obviously, they did over this year, I believe. And so, they needed something. And basketball and soccer, I've kind of been their 2 MOs here the past couple of years. Yeah. And it's good to see the basketball program sitting there at 12-4 at the top of the conference. The top of the conference there in the East. And so, it's going to be really fun. Once we get a plan down for what we're doing in the MAC tournament, we'll let you guys all know, because depending on who plays in the women's game, Ball State happens to make it. I think it's like an 11 o'clock or noon game or something like that.
It's an early time slot.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll make that happen, because I'd love to see the Cardinals pull that off. And
that'd be really
cool. A lot of fun there to watch. Well, I guess Rocket Mortgage Arena now, but the Q to me.
The Q.
We're going to go back further.
It's always the Q.
Or we're going to go back even further, go to the Gunda Arena. But
I'm fine with either of the above, just not
absolutely.
Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, that's coming up here. That's coming up here. In 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. We'll be in Cleveland.
Yeah.
We'll be watching some Mid-American Conference Championship basketball. I know I'm excited. I know you're excited. We're going to reach out to Ricky Stokes, try to get in touch with him, get a chance to kind of do a little bit of a meet and greet.
Sure.
And I think that'll be a really good opportunity.
We'd love to set up a meeting with him when we're done, too, kind of talk about the MAC tournament as a whole, how it went from the business side of things, and kind of things like that. I mean, because it's obviously going to be good basketball because there's so many good teams in it this year. It's really top-heavy, probably 7 or 8. I'd say probably 5, 6 teams that have a legitimate shot of winning it. But I believe the 13th, and we're doing a joint podcast with the Beard Brothers.
Yes, we're going to be doing a joint episode with them, yeah. Once you get to Toledo, depending on my work schedule, I'm going to try to get the 13th and the 14th off. 14th for sure. But the plan is to get together with them, talk over some stuff, and do our first ever joint episode. And I know you're excited. They're excited. I'm excited. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely.
Kind of burying the rivalry hatchet, if you will, or the start to.
We can, maybe hit up a local establishment that I haven't been to in a while up there and have some fun.
Absolutely. No, we'll make a night of it.
Absolutely. But we can go to the top 25 here for the men.
Go for it.
Couple of, kind of speaking of some of these upsets here, Providence, they took down Villanova 58-54. That game was at Villanova. That one kind of surprised everybody. Providence has come out of nowhere.
Providence has come out of nowhere. They just, because they've not been on anybody's radar this year. You know Providence is typically, all right, they're in the tournament. Everybody kind of knows who they are. This year they've just disappeared. And then all of a sudden, that was a huge win for them over Villanova. 58-54, like you said. I don't know what was going, and that was at Villanova too, so I don't even know what was going on. That was just so many. Well, yesterday was just upset city. You look at a lot of these results in general, like Baylor barely escaped TCU, TCU upset Baylor. Sorry. Gonzaga got by St. Mary's. San Diego State got by Nevada. Clemson knocking off Florida State. That was huge. Virginia knocking off number 7 Duke. Just a lot of these results just were mind-blowing. Michigan State beating Maryland, obviously. Providence beating Villanova. Penn State, Iowa, that was a good game. Iowa beating Penn State. Technically an upset, even though they're only separated by 2 spots.
Right.
But just so many good games. Oklahoma, West Virginia. Oklahoma just put the beating on West Virginia, 73-62.
They did. And
that game was closer score-wise closer in score than what how the game was actually going.
Absolutely. And then you kind of look at Seton Hall, Marquette. That was a fairly close one. They're only 9-point deficit there. And Auburn, Auburn, Kentucky was fairly close up until the last couple of minutes. And then the Kentucky ended up pulling away 73-66. But get on here, the Hoos beat Duke 52-50. Virginia's one of those teams that was coming up a national championship. They lost a lot last year. They kind of hit or miss, but they hit perfect here on this time around against Duke. Virginia is only 21-7 on the year. Duke is 23-6. But yeah,
how Virginia is not ranked kind of blows my mind. I'll be honest, because like you said, 21-7. Duke only has 1 less loss, and they're ranked number 7 in the country.
I think that just goes to show the depth of college basketball this year.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, BYU at ranked 17. They beat Pepperdine. You mentioned San Diego State beat Nevada 76 rather. Sparty beat Maryland 78-66, and Gonzaga with the late game last night. They won 86-76. And moving into today's schedule, not a whole lot of games going on, but still some good ones here. Creighton,
great upsets.
They got hammered by St. John's.
Absolutely
91-71. Creighton was sitting there ranked 10th on the year, and they got kind of hammered there. Cincinnati dropped one, 68-55 against the 25 ranked Houston. That game was at Houston, and then we go down here down the lower of the list. Louisville, they beat Virginia Tech 68-52. And then Stanford with the upset today, beating Colorado 64. I think that's Colorado's second loss in a row. They had lost to UCLA last weekend.
And they started off really hot this year.
They did, yeah.
Like this is, they're 21-9, 10-7 in conference play, but they just look out of sorts in the last week or so. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know if there's some injuries, but they just look completely out of sorts in every facet of the game.
Yeah, this is Colorado's third loss in a row. They lost to UCLA, Cal, and then they lost to Stanford today. So, they'll probably drop out of the top 25, which makes room for somebody else. Makes room for another Big Ten team.
There we go. I like it. Yeah, no, I mean, and you've mentioned this so many times, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. You don't want to be ranked in college basketball this year. Like, you're prime for the upset. I mean, and I think Ricky actually mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we had him on the show. Nobody is safe because there's no one truly dominant team. Like, I look at, the entire rankings and, just how everything looks. There's no one team that I can honestly say, oh, yeah, that team is going to be lights out. I mean, you've got Kansas, you've got Baylor, you've got Dayton, and you've got Gonzaga. And those are probably going to be your top four, barring any crazy upsets in tournament play. But after that, there's nobody that anybody should be afraid of.
Absolutely.
In the tournament.
And I'm so interested to see, too, because it happens every year, which top team gets, beat in the first round. Mm-hmm. It's bound to happen. So
every single season.
Yeah. So I'm really curious to see who that is this year, because, it's just going to happen. It's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in March, officially being today, March 1st, which means March Madness is just around the corner, which is very exciting. Which also means
so exciting.
Opening day.
25 days away.
Yeah, I was going to say 25, 26 days away. So we're excited. Finally. We had some nasty weather last week, but it's 50 degrees out today. So that means positive things here on the horizon.
I cannot wait. You and I have talked about baseball on here before. I'm going to depart from our whole college thing for a minute. I am so excited to see what my Reds do this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this team, there's a lot of good players in good positions. The Reds spent $164 million in the offseason to get players here. I think if they're going to make a playoff push, this is the year they have to do it.
Right.
All that money's gone. Like, you have to do it now.
Absolutely. And, speaking of baseball, too, my birthday, Tin Caps have a home game, so you got to come down for that.
Hey, that works for me. That's awesome. And you're with you being a big Indians fan, well, I guess what are some of your expectations for the Indians this year?
I'm excited. It's one of those things where, my big concern is getting Francisco Lindor signed long term.
Yes.
That's the one thing I'm really concerned about right now. And there have been talks of getting him a long term deal. And it better happen. I think it will, because I think they're going to realize that, okay, he's a once-in-a-lifetime, he's a once-in-a-generation talent. Yeah. So, they're paying him $10.5 million this year. He's worth a lot more than that. And I think he'll get that at the end of this year, or at some point this year, because he did win arbitration this year. And so, but I'm excited about it. Being updated. It's nice. I'm sure you feel the same way. Getting baseball updates on your phone.
Yeah.
It's such a great feeling.
Sure, it's just so spring training, but it's so nice seeing final scores.
And it's so weird right now, too, because they're playing two games, one in Vegas and then the others in Arizona or whatever, wherever they're at. So you get two games going here on at the same time. But yeah, those are fun updates to get. It's it's spring training. It's a lot of guys who aren't going to make the roster.
Sure.
But still,
but a lot of guys will get to see, at like the Toledo Mud Hens or some of these other like Dayton Dragons, things like that. We'll get to see a lot of those guys play back in that AAA level, and that'll be super super cool to see because some of those guys will get called up.
Absolutely. Like 2 years ago, here in Fort Wayne, the Tin Caps were the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres, and Fernando Tatis was here 2 years ago, and now he's an absolute phenom in the big leagues.
That's a name people know.
Exactly. He was just here a couple of years ago. So.
Did you see the Tim Tebow gaffe?
Yeah, he's playing for the Philippines.
Did you see him? He went to make a play on the last out. Yeah.
They tripped, yeah.
Poor guy. Should have stuck to football, man.
And I'm just kind of curious to see what happens with him, how it works out, because the Mets aren't that good. You know, is he going to be stuck in Double A and Triple A this year? Who knows? I mean, he hit a home run his first AB, I think, in spring training.
Yeah, I think he did.
That's really been about it.
And he absolutely crushed that.
Yeah, he did. He did. And I'm kind of curious to see too, when it comes to the Baseball World Classic qualifying, how he plays with a bunch of guys he's never played with before.
Yeah, it's all about gelling and fitting in with the program, I think. And I think he'll do fine. I don't know that I don't ever believe that Tim Tebow will play past Triple A.
I think he'll play a big league game someday.
Just for money.
The Mets will be so bad, and they figure, what the heck, this is how we're gonna get some people in the seats to call up Tim Tebow.
All right, I could see it.
I really think that's going to be the case. But
just like I said, though, just for money, not for really any other reason.
Sure.
Watch, he becomes some MLB phenomenon.
Right. He would sell tickets. That's for sure.
Oh, 100%. There's no question.
What a fun trip that would be to Miami, the World Baseball Classic. That'd be so much fun.
Don't tempt me, man. I know that we've got a bunch of other stuff planned this year. Don't tempt me.
I decided to get engaged, so I can't afford that.
I know. I mean, if we take Faith with us.
Yeah. Miami's a guy's trip.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's absolutely true. But because we won, of course, the United States won it a couple of years ago. And so, was it every 2 years they play that?
Yeah, I think it's every 2 years. Yeah, that sounds right.
So, yeah, our team was loaded, too. It came down to us in Puerto Rico. And, that was so much fun to watch.
And that's always such a unique tournament to watch, too, because you get these guys who are playing for these big league teams, then they go back and they play for their home countries. And I think that's really cool to see. They have a little bit of, national pride for where they were and, where they grew up. And they're making a name for their country, and I think that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the things baseball is doing very well, too, is they do the Puerto Rico game, that series down there, and the Roberto Clemente thing. And, of course, the Indians and Twins played in it last year. I'm not sure who's going to play this year. I haven't seen, but it's like,
I haven't either.
Like Francisco Lindor hit a home run and the stadium just erupted. And then there was a couple guys from the Twins from Puerto Rico. And so it was just kind of cool to go back there. And the MLB does a phenomenal job when it comes to their fan experience and their outreach. Mm-hmm. They have an imprint just about everywhere, kind of like how basketball does. Baseball, the MLB does a phenomenal job of that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Baseball is always, and I think baseball has always actually done a pretty good job with the fan experience. Mm-hmm. I think it's just as we've evolved into the 21st century, the attendance is down because of a multitude of factors. But baseball, unless you're actually there, is kind of a boring game to watch. Unless you're there in person. It's hard. I mean, it's easy to listen to on the radio. It's hard to watch on TV. Mm-hmm. But if you're there, and anybody listening, if you get the chance to go to a Major League Baseball game, it's worth it. It doesn't matter if you like the team or not. It's worth it because that stadium atmosphere is such a cool thing.
Well, heck, you don't even have to go to a Major League team. Go to your local minor league team. Those are just as fun. I do Tin Caps games all the time. And obviously, I worked with the Mud Hens for a summer. And so then we had, in South Bend growing up, we had the South Bend Silverhawks.
They're the Cubs now, right?
They're the Cubs now. Yeah, they used to be the single-A affiliates, the Arizona Diamondbacks. But now they got, probably about 5-7 years ago, they got bought by the Cubs, the South Bend Cubs now. You got the Dayton Dragons. You've got the Columbus Clippers.
Mm-hmm. The Louisville Bats, yeah.
Who else?
There's just affiliates all over.
Yeah, there are. The Whitecaps up in Michigan.
Yeah.
There's a few. It's so much fun, and it's literally $5-10 a ticket. You can't really beat that.
No, you really can't.
But that's what I'm excited to get to, because my office, I can see the stadium from my office window. I can see right into the stadium, so it's pretty nice. And so every day I get reminded of it, and how it's almost here.
Yeah, no, it's almost here, and we've talked about it on the show, but I'm excited to go to a couple of Tin Cap games with you guys, and have you guys come up for some Mud Hen games. They're always a good time, and
Sure.
I love it when they do like the fan days or like the special days where they do like the special uniforms and stuff. You don't see that too much in Major League,
Yeah.
but a lot of the minor league teams will do the special uniforms. Like the Walleye just did Superhero Night this last weekend.
Yeah, been doing a couple
And-
of those this year.
Yeah,
And then
like
the
those are
ones I
fun.
sent you the other night because the Walleye will be here in Fort Wayne the weekend I come see you. It's Ace Ventura night, and those
That's
Fort
right.
Wayne uniforms were awesome.
Yeah, no, those looked really slick. Those looked really, really cool.
And they always usually, most of the time they auction those off for charity. That's a jersey I would buy.
Oh, for sure. A lot of those jerseys are super, super cool. And, like you said, they auction them off for charity or whatever. What I think is cool is that every bit of that money actually goes to those charities.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
a lot of the times you'll see like, hey, we're going to give 80% of the proceeds to charity, like whatever. No, all of that's pure for charity. And I think that's what's really, really cool.
Yeah, minor league involvement in the communities. They've always done a phenomenal job. We did a lot of outreach things when I was with the Mud Hens and the Walleye within the community and things like that. It was so fun to be a part of. Hang out with the mascots, going to schools, going to benefits, things like that.
Mhm.
And they do a phenomenal job. But it's interesting too once you get to like the Mud Hens level because they are such a well-known name, not only in minor league baseball, but I think in sports in general. Everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to do that brand recognition. The Tin Caps, I was probably 9-10 years ago, they were the Fort Wayne Wizards.
And that was the name I knew them. I grew up. We would go to Fort Wayne Wizards games.
Sure. Like Corey Kluber got his start there.
Mhm.
A bunch of big guys did. And then because their stadium was out by the Coliseum, and they tore that down and just built another parking lot. But the stadium is downtown now.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
No,
And
it's a beautiful stadium.
Parker Field's great, and it's voted I think like third or fourth year in a row one of the top minor league ballparks in the country.
Yeah,
And,
I saw something about that.
they-
Like they've
They do a
just
great
killed
job.
it. Yeah.
And they have a lot of money into it, and then Toledo with Fifth Third Field, ProMedica does a phenomenal job there as well
Mm-hmm.
with their branding because I think they sponsored Winterfest a couple of years ago. I think I'm assuming they'll sponsor it again next year.
Yeah,
Which
next year.
I'm excited to come up for again. It's cool to say I was part of the OG class or OG team
Winterfest.
who worked with that. I still have my
Yeah.
jersey with my Winterfest patch on it.
See, and I want to go to that this year. That's something I definitely am planning on going to because I've
Mhm.
never been to Winterfest.
Oh, so much fun.
So I'm excited, now that I have other people, other connections that I can go with, like to make it a much better experience. So
Yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, it was a blast because like days that they aren't playing hockey, it's open skate. So you rent a pair of skates, you go skate around the ice, and then they play little league games all the way through BG. They played games. I'm trying to think who they played when I went or one of the games I worked. I can't remember. But then of course the Walleye played at night, and so it was just it was really cool at night.
Yeah. Well, and I
On
think
the
it's super, super cool that, like you mentioned, Bowling Green being the local college hockey team that comes to play. I think that's super cool. They get them to come in, and then they get a big name opponent for them to come in.
Yeah.
Like
And I
who did
wanted
they have a couple years ago?
And I wanted to say it was maybe like Ferris State they played,
Yeah.
who's still no slouch.
No, I think that's a conference opponent for
I
them.
think so.
But they're still a top team in college hockey.
Yeah. So. yeah, I'm
This
excited
last year
about
they
that.
had RIT, I think, came in.
Okay.
Rochester Institute.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And so that was super cool to have those guys come in and be a part of that experience as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so they do a phenomenal job, and so I'm really excited for that next year. I was trying to think back, all the people I worked with, I think there's maybe one or two that still work there, but they're there full time now. So, yeah, it's kind of, and I haven't been to a Mudheads game since I left, since my internship was up in 2014. So I need to definitely get back there for a game because they do a phenomenal job. Muddy and Madonna, the mascots are great. The promos are so much fun.
They're great mascots. Well, and I think one of the things I love you're talking about the mascots is how the Walleye mascots and the Mud Hen mascots have a great partnership with the University of Toledo and Rocky and Roxy.
Yep.
Like they're always in promos together for everything. And I think that's so cool.
I met them. I met Rocky and Roxy when I was there. Took a picture with them.
I dated somebody who did Roxy for a while, so that was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
But it's a great thing.
Absolutely. Speaking of mascots too, maybe here in the future towards baseball season, got a good friend of mine who was the Indians mascot. So maybe we'll get him on here and talk about the mascot life.
That would be really cool. You're mentioning him. I had a buddy of mine who was the walleye mascot, Gapper, right? Yeah. He was the walleye mascot, and he's actually one of my best friends. I'm his kid's godfather.
Really? Was he Spike or which one was he?
He may have been Spike, actually.
Spike or Catrick?
Catrick. Yeah,
Catrick.
he was Catrick. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm his kid's godfather, and we're really good friends. So
nice.
It'd be cool to do an episode where we have both of them on, and just talk mascotting.
Because the Catrick, when I was there, was also the Tiger in Detroit.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he was a full-time mascot. Yeah, and then the Madonna, when I was in Toledo, she was Frida Falcon at BG.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, my buddy he did Catrick, but then he also did Rocky at UT.
Yeah, that Catrick uniform is heavy.
It's massive. He's got some cool stories from being Catrick, which I'll let him tell on the show. But there's some crazy stories about mascotting. That stuff you wouldn't believe, but stuff you almost have to believe, you know?
And like those guys too would dress up in the summers and come hang out at games and whatnot. And I mean, Catrick in that suit in the summer is just miserable.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Spike was just miserable because there's no airflow through that either.
No.
So I can remember too. A guy, his name was Mark, I believe. He was Spike when I was there.
Okay.
He was at a walleye game and he tried to jump over the railing into the crowd, but his foot slipped and he went right on his crotch.
Oh.
Right in front of everybody. It was hysterical. But he played it off very well. He just kind of hung there on the railing. And, it was so funny, but, so painful.
Oh, I can't even imagine. The poor guy.
Because you can't break character, so...
No, you absolutely can't.
Yeah. Oh, good times.
That's so wild.
But let's look at the games here that we've got coming up this week. We really won't have too much going on until probably, the Tuesday, game-wise.
Monday's pretty light. Monday we don't have. We've got Duke playing North Carolina State, and then Texas Tech. Actually, a good one tomorrow night. Number 22 Texas Tech taking on number 2 Baylor at Baylor down in Waco, Texas. So that'll be a good one. Mm-hmm. Everything else is pretty light. You've got Alabama State taking on Texas Southern. Arkansas Pine Bluff taking on Jackson State. Like nothing really good except those two matchups, NC State at Duke and then Texas Tech at Baylor. But Tuesday is definitely the heavy hitter for the end of conference races. You look at how everything's kind of sitting there. We've got Maryland taking on Rutgers at Rutgers, Michigan State at Penn State.
And Rutgers is a dangerous place to play.
It really is. They've been really good at home. Those are kind of the headliners from tomorrow night. Toledo at Northern Illinois on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Tennessee at Kentucky. Purdue at 18 Iowa. Good luck, Purdue. West Virginia at Iowa State. So those are kind of the big headliners.
Wednesday here, Villanova travels to Seton Hall. That'll be a good one.
That's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to. I think I'm going to watch that one. I'm actually looking forward to that one.
So the Mountain West Championship starts, because I'm going here on Thursday. SDU, they're TBD who they play. So their tournament must start this week then.
Okay.
It probably starts on Tuesday. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday. So, Nebraska, they're going to travel to Michigan. Illinois is going to travel to Ohio State. This is all on Thursday. Houston travels to UConn. And then Cal travels to Oregon. And then Friday... Can I pull it up? The conference tournaments start playing here. Northern Iowa, they're TBD here. They're sitting there 25-5 on the year. That's the MVC conference. What is that? MVC, which one's that? Something Valley Conference?
Yeah, Missouri Valley Conference.
Missouri Valley Conference, yep. Because that starts because the Salukis of Southern Illinois, they play Bradley. And then... VMI, they play Samford in the Southern Conference.
Okay.
Big South, Big South. Here's TBD. Buffalo and BG. That's gonna be a good one on Friday.
That's gonna be that's got a lot of implications
It
for
does here.
the MAC tournament.
Kent State goes to Akron. That'll be a tough one. Eastern Michigan goes to Toledo. Western goes to Central. Georgia Tech goes to Clemson. Wake Forest goes to NC State. Again, this is all Friday, March 6th. Richmond, they go to Duquesne. Is that Niagara Falls, maybe?
Yeah.
That's all these random teams are going to start popping up here now as conference play starts. Yeah, so Niagara goes to, who is that? Got Consensus?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, never heard. Yeah, so we're getting to all those teams now.
Everybody's
Niagara.
playing everybody here in the next 2
Exactly.
weeks. It's fun to see. I mean, I think, and we've touched on this before, this is definitely the most exciting time for college basketball outside of the actual NCAA tournament. Because
the Harvard or the Ivy League tournament here starts too. Brown goes to Harvard, Columbia goes to Princeton, Cornell goes to Penn, Yale goes to Dartmouth, Loyola, Illinois. They haven't been they're TBD there still. Then we got Miami goes to Miami of Ohio, Ball State goes to NIU.
Okay.
And everything else is really TBD here. Missouri State goes to Indiana State, the Missouri Valley Conference quarterfinal. And so, yeah, that's really it there for the week. And we get into Saturday here. Nova goes to Georgetown. Auburn goes to Tennessee. Baylor goes to West Virginia. Kentucky goes to Florida. Kansas goes to Texas Tech. That'll be a good one. Seton Hall and Creighton. That'll also be a good one. Seton Hall goes to Creighton. Colorado goes to Utah. Louisville goes to UVA. Penn State goes to Northwestern. Boston College goes to Florida State. UNC goes to Duke on Saturday. George Washington goes to Dayton. And then Stanford goes to Oregon. That's rough because that's 11 o'clock tip-off our time.
Yeah, that's one you can't really stay up and watch.
I don't have any plans to do that. And then on Sunday, March 8th, is Big Ten heavy. Michigan goes to Maryland. Memphis goes to Houston. Ohio State goes to Michigan State, and Iowa goes to Illinois. That'll be a really good one right now because Iowa and Illinois are both there 20-9 on the year. And the Buckeyes and Michigan State are also 20-9 on the year. Yeah. So this will be a really interesting week here. A lot of things could happen. A lot of things could change. There's a lot
of things are really going to move around. I wanted to point out, I'm looking at the women's bracketology here really quick.
Yeah.
They have, right now, the number 7 seed in Greenville as Central Michigan taking on number 10 Purdue. Mm-hmm. If standings froze right now, that would be a really high seed for a MAC school. Yeah. I've never seen a MAC school go that high, men or women's. So that would be really, really cool. But it looks like they've almost got the Fort Wayne quartile of the bracket locked down. Looks like Maryland, Dayton is going to be a team we know. UCLA, Montana State looks like they're going to be doing the Fort Wayne side.
Okay.
Assuming they win the Big Sky, of course. Louisville out of the ACC, Michigan taking on South Dakota, TCU taking on Western Kentucky, Gonzaga taking on Fresno State. Like, there's some quality matchups here.
Sure. Yeah, that Montana State game is the game we'll probably... What's the date on that anyway? It's like the 28th, isn't there, something like that?
Doesn't have a date, but yeah, something like that.
I drove past it yesterday. I'll have to check. Yeah, that Montana State game I'll probably have to end up go to.
Yeah, that would be a good one to check out for sure. Well, I mean, especially with Faith going to Montana State and all that, I think that would be such a really, really neat thing to do.
Absolutely. Because the men played at IU like last year. I was bummed I didn't know that, or else I would have taken her down there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And I love the bracketology. I just love watching those every single week. Teams move in, teams drop out. And the next week and a half it's all going to get solidified, and it's exciting to see.
But what we're talking about now is going to totally change, and we'll look completely wrong. So it's going to be great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something's going to happen, and we're going to look like idiots, and that's the best part of it all. Honestly,
usually how it goes.
I did want to announce we are going to be doing a bracket challenge.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, we're going to be offering a bracket challenge up. We're doing it through Sleeper, which is the fantasy football app I prefer to use, and they've I'll get the poll, or I'll get it loaded up right now. I've got a couple people in there already. Just got those in there. I'll make sure that everybody else gets the invite. But make sure if you guys are looking for a bracket challenge, this one's free. We'll be doing a giveaway for it again. So make sure that you guys get an opportunity to check that out and tune in for that, because I think that's going to be really exciting for us. And as we continue on through March Madness, I think there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of crazy things to happen. Nobody ever wins those brackets that is supposed to. Like, no. I've seen people win it because they like the secondary color of some of these schools.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
No.
So,
but then they make us people who actually invest our time into it look like fools.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I've won one bracket challenge, and that was when I was in 8th grade, and I had never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So, you know, maybe I'm not the college expert I claim to be.
Right. That's how I am too.
Yeah, it's awful. And it's like I scratch my head and I watch these people win these pools. It's like, oh yeah, I just like the name of their mascot. Okay, but why? Like there's no rhyme or reason for your pick.
Or like with Loyola Chicago, they like what was her name? Sister
Mary.
Sister Mary. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, she was great. I mean, I was pulling for Loyola after they hit the Sweet 16. I was pulling for them just for her.
Sure.
She was great to watch, and that energy that she gave that team was pretty cool. They made the Final Four last year? Or 2 years ago? Elite Eight? Okay.
I think so.
I thought they made the Final Four, but yeah. That was fun to watch for sure.
It was. So partner, that's all I've got on my end.
Cool, man. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that about wraps it up for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you get the chance, check out the Beard Brothers Fantasy Football Podcast. They didn't have a show this last week. Kind of been a bit of a slow week for everybody, I've kind of noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you guys get a chance, check them out on Twitter at Beard Brothers FF. Follow them, give them some info. Check out Super Movie Brothers as well. They just did their 200th episode. I called in, congratulated them. They gave our podcast a shout out, told people to check us out, so I'm returning the favor.
200 podcasts, holy hell.
200 podcasts. We're on 15. Think about how long we would have to be doing podcasts for.
Yeah.
Hopefully we make a little bit of money by then. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
But yeah, their 200th episode they just did. It was a great episode. Those guys really know their stuff. A lot of movie quotes, a lot of movie thoughts, opinions, breakdown. It's a really great podcast. Check out ATB Sports. I've posted a couple articles as of late. If you guys get a chance to read those, we definitely appreciate it. But also follow us on Twitter at Across the Campus, and if you review us, please use your real name.
Yes.
We appreciate it, and we appreciate your reviews and listening to us. And if you like what you heard, spread the gospel. We're trying to grow our listener base, and we would love to fill the ear holes of new listeners every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with this, we've gone on. We've gotten a lot of feedback from people.
Mm-hmm.
People still talking about the Ricky Stokes interview.
Yeah.
How fun that was and kind of the cool information we got from that. So as we grow this thing, we continue to hopefully get more interviews like that, get more insight like that. We mentioned we're trying to meet up with Mary Cleveland in the next couple of weeks, but as baseball gets around, because I have a little more contact in baseball, so hopefully we get some, just random people on here. It doesn't have to be about college basketball or Big Ten or MAC. We're just going to get whoever we can. Alex and I are lucky we have contacts all over, and so, heck, we're going to talk to my college roommate who's a professional wrestler. So we're going to get him on and just talk random things. So it'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to bringing all of that to you guys. So thank you for listening. Please continue to support us by listening and sharing our content. We love you guys. We appreciate it. AJ, I think that's it for me. Anything
Sounds
else?
Good. That's it, man.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Later.